Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cosmic Closet Podcast. Joining me, as always, we have my co-host, Jacob.
Hello, everybody.
And we have a crazy topic today. We're going to dive into mass extinction events, both past, present, and future.
Dude. So, shall we just begin with the first one that we know of?
Yeah, but I think when I first looked at this, I was like, what is a mass extinction event or an extinction event? Apparently, it's the widespread and rapid decrease in the biodiversity on Earth. And I think you've researched and I've researched some instances of that happening.
Oh, yes. There are 5 main mass extinctions.
Well-known ones.
Yes, throughout all of history. Our first one dates all the way back 445 million years ago.
Which is insane to start with.
Yeah. I think it's insane how we know this happened. You know?
That was my other thing last night. I was like, how did they even determine this?
Yeah. And I was watching a documentary, detailing what kinds of life forms were around. How the heck did we know how they were evolving and stuff? So a part of me feels like it's a lot of conjecture, but of course it's based in fact for sure.
They've got some fossils.
Oh yeah. But this is the Ordovician extinction.
And this one was, I've got it here. Ordovician. First of all, I don't know how they make these names, but this is basically where a bunch of marine organisms died out, if I remember right.
Correct.
Pretty much. Do you know how this one was caused?
Let me brush up again on this. Oh yes, it was caused by a supernova thousands of light years away. So we are not safe at any time period. We're at the hands of God. A star supernovaed and released intense gamma rays that eventually reached Earth and destroyed most of the ozone layer. And Blaine, what happened after that?
Well, basically that just alters Earth. I've noticed that in some of these. Now I really started looking at the Devonian one on, but I'm assuming the temperatures changed. Probably a greenhouse effect.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. CO2 skyrocketed.
And it's kind of crazy because that's pretty much the case for most of these. Is a huge event happened that affected the entire globe. Jumping ahead a little bit to the Devonian one, this is the second one. This is the second event, 365 million years ago, so give or take almost 100 million years later, it seems like. The tropical marine species basically went extinct, which, if I'm reading this right and what I was looking at last night, basically we weren't even on land yet. This is all marine life.
Yes. Yeah, by this time, placoderms became the apex predator of the sea. Those are fish that have like a carapace on their face. Got bony beaks, pretty much. Oh, and this is also when the first pelagic fish appeared, and those are also the placoderms. They live in the water column, away from the surface and the ocean floor. It was unheard of until then.
Jeez, I think it's unheard of till now. I had no idea about this. So what I found out is during this Devonian one, 75% of the species went extinct, and there's 2 theories about it. One is that an algae bloom from flowers and trees was born. Basically, all these flowers and trees started popping up on land, and it led to the ocean blooming algae and took the oxygen out of the water, so then all the marine species couldn't get oxygen, obviously, and they died. There's another theory that volcanic eruptions decrease the oxygen in the ocean. But going back to the fish, this is also where the Dunkleosteus, it's Dunk Leosteus, it was killed, which was basically a giant fish with a bone plate on its hand.
Oh, yeah.
It looked like it was like 5 times the size of the current modern day whales.
Really?
Yeah, they had like a whale next to it, and it was dwarfed in comparison on this diagram. So that was eventually killed off. The marine life was massive, it seems like. So when the food chain got disrupted, they died pretty quick. But yeah, did you find anything else about the Devonian one? I thought that was pretty crazy.
So you mentioned 2 theories. The documentary I watched, it pretty much listed both of those as both happening, because this extinction event actually lasted thousands of years. So from what I gathered, at first it was the volcanic plume covered lots of the Earth's surface. At this time, we had 2 large land masses. It was Laurasia and Gondwana. But it covered most of the land, and then, let's see, when those plumes reached the water, poisonous heavy metals would be produced and sit there right in the ocean, poisoning the water. And then 8,000 years later, then the atmosphere was filled with greenhouse gases from the volcano. And yeah, of course, temperature rises. And then this is where the algae comes in. It says that the runoff rainwater, after these 8,000 years, would bring algae into the ocean. And then, yeah, they invaded pretty much unchecked.
And that's what's fascinating is you still have algae bloom today. So I wonder what negates that spread now. I mean, obviously there's evolution and stuff, so there must be something in the water now that kind of stops that. Obviously humans can stop it, but we still have algae bloom. You get it in ponds and stuff.
Yeah. I think it was because, according to this, I think a lot of the life was killed. So this algae basically became an invasive species on an uninhabited area. Yeah. There's nothing
covered it all.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though, that both the algae bloom and the volcanic eruption probably did take place.
Yeah. Oh, and this also caused a volcanic winter, if that wasn't enough.
And you said those 2 land masses, this was pre-Pangea.
Yes. Pangea will actually come onto the 4th extinction event. But let's get to the 3rd.
Yeah, the 3rd one. The 3rd one is even crazier.
Yeah.
So this one's called the Permian Triassic extinction. And this is where 96% of marine life and 70% of terrestrial life, so we had some species on land, 70% of the land life got wiped out, and this one's referred to as the Great Dying. So that gives you a perspective about that one.
Yeah.
What did you find out about this one? I've got a few things, but this one's pretty crazy.
So this is kind of unclear on how it was initially caused, but I think it's kind of related to actually the volcanic plume from the last event. That plume originated in modern-day Siberia, and then here in the Permian extinction, the ground in Siberia actually opened up, and more magma covered the area. It doesn't stop there.
It's like the movie 2012.
For real. And then actually 10 years after the ground just split open, of course, greenhouse effect started ramping up again. And surface animals had trouble breathing due to the fluctuating heating and cooling.
Mm-hmm. And I heard, so yeah, you have the greenhouse effect, weather got shifted, the sea levels rose, and then eventually acid rain was formed. So yes. No matter what theater you were in, if you were in the water, if you were on land, something was going to get you.
Yeah.
And they said after the Permian Triassic extinction, again, this was 250 million years ago. After this was all said and done and everything had taken effect, it took the coral reefs in the ocean 14 million years to get back to where they were before the extinction happened.
Jeez.
So that just tells you the scope, and that's just the coral reefs. Imagine everything else.
I can't imagine like all that time needing to pass as a human being, and knowing that we're destroying the reefs as we speak. We have to wait 14 million years for that to get repaired
on a scale like that. And it really, I was telling you this, it puts it into perspective just how small and insignificant on the timeline human history is.
Indeed. It's also, I mean, it's insignificant, but also hugely significant at the same time, because everything humans have been through, we've adapted. We haven't failed yet.
That's true. It's just crazy to think about, like you said, how they can track this stuff. Like, how did they know that the reefs took 14 million years to recover?
Yeah.
But this one basically was the worst one, it seems like, to date. 96%, marine life killed, 70% gone on the land. But yeah, I mean, basically it was a large chain reaction of different things. And that's what people talk about today. You have sea level rising. Everybody talks about greenhouse ozone. So it's kind of scary when we were doing this research.
Yeah.
It's still terms being used today.
Yeah. I should include, so that Siberia eruption, it caused methane to get released as well, which also contributed to the greenhouse effect. And I just want to point that out because methane's an issue today.
Yeah. Jeez. So that's the Permian one. Do you have any other info about that one before we hop to?
We got everything there. I just want to point out plants, reptiles, amphibians, and brachiopods at this time inherited the Earth, and flying animals started to appear as well.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and brachiopods, they're like mollusks and like clams.
They started to enter the stage.
Yeah.
So then after that, we jumped to the Triassic-Jurassic extinction, which was 210 million years ago. And this is basically where vertebrae got affected, and it set the stage for dinosaurs to come afterwards.
Yes.
That's what I read.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the age of reptiles.
And similar to the other ones, it was a lot of volcanic activity.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a culmination of everything so far. Besides the solar flare, that still hasn't happened yet. Again.
Yeah.
But by this time, Pangaea was a fully formed supercontinent. But unfortunately, it wouldn't last very long because these volcanic eruptions pretty much split the whole thing apart, or at least made them distinct continents.
Yeah.
Because of how powerful the eruptions were. Lava ran across the land, swallowed most of the land animals. 50 years passed with frequent eruptions, just worldwide.
Oh my god. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And because of this, oxygen levels were dangerously low for 10 years after that. And a lot of animals had to turn to cannibalism or suffocated and died.
Oh god.
But do you have anything else to add?
Basically what I had is it was a massive, amount of volcanic activity, like you said, that shifted everything. And the main source of the volcanic activity is actually where it currently is now is covered by the Atlantic Ocean. So it was basically, it was on land, but, now it's covered by the ocean. That's how long ago this was. And temperatures increased, the sea levels rose, like you said, and this is actually where the prehistoric crocodiles got wiped out. So we obviously still have today's crocodiles, but their ancestors, this is the one that took them out. But yeah, it's crazy to think that, imagine that happening now, 50 years of continuous volcanic activity on a super scale.
Do you think we would have been wiped out pretty fast, or do you think humans, or at least today's humans, would we prevent?
I think we could prevent it now, come up with the solution. but if this hit while we were in our caveman period, I mean, we
no.
would be toast.
Toast.
We were scared of fire, and the earth was on fire.
Yeah.
So
I just want to add, this would go on for 50,000 years, and the earth was still on fire. Acid rain started falling, decimating flora and ocean life. This killed plankton and disrupted the ocean food chain. So this extinction event, it didn't end until after 600,000 years had passed.
Oh my god.
It was an ongoing freaking slaughter.
Yeah, I don't know how life comes back after that. That's the fascinating thing, is after each of these mass extinctions, something survived. You have 96% of the life wiped out. There's a 4% of the species were like, nah, this is fine.
Life finds a way.
Yeah, this is actually their greatest moment. They can take over the earth, set the stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one's crazy. And I think that's number 4 now, and going into 5. 5 is the famous one. 5 is the dinosaurs.
Yeah, this is the one we all learned about. The Paleogene.
Yeah, the Paleogene one. And that, I heard it's KPG for short.
Oh, did not
they call it
about that.
Yeah, it's the Cretaceous extinction 65 million years ago. And what did you find out about this one?
So, some short backstory. By this time, the continents pretty much had drifted to where they are now. It was the age of dinosaurs and tiny mammals. What else? So right before the great event that we all know about, I just want to throw in lava flows from India started pouring out, and they spanned up to 500 miles, killing lots of...
Pre-impact?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Sadly. And the emissions caused temperatures to fluctuate, so the world's already jacked up before this event even happens.
Yeah, and then this is like the final nail in the coffin. And if you're not aware of this, basically what happened is the famous asteroid hit in Yucatan, Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And what I read about it is it was so large, it was 8 miles wide, and it hit the Earth at 45,000 miles per hour.
Yeah. I saw it was a 100 million megaton explosion.
Jeez. I mean, you can't even fathom that. The hole was 110 miles wide, and it was 12 miles deep. I mean, just think about standing on the edge and looking 12 miles down. That's how deep this was.
So, like ocean, it landed in the ocean, right? Or near it?
In Mexico. I think a piece of it was in the ocean, but yeah, Yucatan, Mexico.
Okay. So yeah, water within a 60-kilometer radius. I don't know what that is in miles, but the water vaporized instantly. And of course, nearby animals disappeared.
Yeah, I heard that the impact, it scorched land 900 miles around it. So that's how far it went.
So one thing I really find interesting about this event versus all of the other ones, this didn't last long at all. So I'm just going to go through a little time lapse. 10 minutes after the impact, the shockwave subsided after killing so many things. After decimating North America, actually. And then cracks opened across the Earth after 10 minutes. Causing animals to fall to their deaths and creating tremors worldwide. So that's 10 minutes. And then less than an hour passes since the first impact. And a tsunami the size of a mountain range sweeps the planet.
Jeez.
An entirely new landscape is formed after... I'm going to assume after all of this has happened, but this is where it starts. A new landscape is formed after the water finally recedes back to the ocean and eroded all the land on its way. And then, just a few hours later, things started to settle down. All the dinosaurs still alive. They're like, okay, we're good. Until rock shards started falling from the sky. from that
Oh,
initial
that
explosion.
had got shot up. Yeah.
Indeed. So the entire planet was then carpet bombed, and it was then on fire for who knows how long. And then after all of that, 1 year later, 70% of life is gone.
Yeah. I mean, if you survive that, what Jacob just described, which is almost impossible to survive. After that, the ash obviously covered the globe, blackened skies, the plants died, and then that's what led to any dinosaurs that weren't killed initially, that food chain collapsed and temperatures plummeted. And basically what you describe, that sounds like a rapture event.
Yeah.
The landscape opening, people falling, dinosaurs falling in.
Yeah, man.
And I heard that many species that could fly, burrow, or dive to the depths of the ocean survived, and that's how we get our modern day birds. It says more than 10,000 species today descended from impact survivors.
Damn. Yeah, the burrowing animals. I also found like hibernating sea creatures. Hibernating helped them conserve resources.
I mean, I wonder what the POV would be like that in the water. I mean, you would feel that globally. That impact, 45,000 miles per hour, hitting the Earth. And I'm sure that had to have done something to the rotation of the Earth. I mean, you're just getting smacked.
Dude, just from the tsunamis, imagine all the marine life that just got swept away and then thrown onto the Earth.
Too. And the sea levels probably dropped. If you're saying that it just vaporized some of the water, that took out some. I mean, it changed the landscape. I'm sure rivers got flooded, mountains got moved.
Yeah. Actually, I think this time the river started boiling. It was so hot. I think I forgot to include that in my notes here, but that was occurring during the meteor shower.
And that's an event where I feel like even with today's technology, we would be done for. A majority of us would be done for.
Yeah, we would have to destroy that thing in space or else we're done.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, when we talk about, potential world enders coming up, that's one of them. It's just, I don't know how modern day we would survive that on the ground level. I mean, the Earth literally opening up, that would swallow cities.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. We are not prepared for events like these. That's for sure.
And so that was the last event known in our history of 65 million years ago. That was the last extinction event. But interestingly, when I was doing this research, some people claim that we're currently in an extinction event, and it's called the Holocene extinction, which is due to human activity. So some people think that we're in the middle of one right now with climate change and all of that.
It would check out. The greenhouse effect is a constant with all of these. Right. And we've all the life on Earth so far, they've dealt with cosmic radiation, volcanoes. What's next but a threat here right on the very Earth? Yeah.
I mean, the greenhouse stuff and rise in temperature and I mean, kind of, jumping into potential world enders. The one that I was talking about is and I think this one, Apophis, which is a huge asteroid. That's one that could, have a potential to impact. It's 1,210 feet in diameter, and it has been predicted to have a 2.7% chance of hitting Earth, but they say that we're safe for the next 100 years. But it's named after the demon serpent Apophis, who personified evil and chaos in ancient Egyptian mythology.
Yep.
So yeah, this one's crazy. It's saying that the next flyby is in 2029, according to NASA. But the reason it's so famous, and I found out about this during the research. There's a thing called the Torino scale, which basically categorizes near-Earth objects, NEOs, and how hazardous they are to the Earth. And it reached a 4. Apophis reached a 4 in the early 2000s, and it freaked everybody out.
Oh, shoot.
It's like a level 4 is, the highest that they've seen.
Oh, I see.
But yeah,
Yikes.
apparently we're safe for the next 100 years, but that kind of reminds me of the Yucatan asteroid if that were to hit.
Yeah, and 100 years in the grand scheme is nothing at all.
That's a day.
Like, yeah, our last extinction event was 66 million years ago, so.
That's the thing is it just puts time in perspective. You can't even fathom how long ago that was, but basically, yeah, Apophis they think could hit in the next 100 years, but with modern technology, we got something that could probably take that out by then. It's not really that big of a deal, but back in the day, if an asteroid hit, you've already heard what happened. So that one's crazy. What did you find? You had found something that was pretty crazy that could happen.
So this isn't an extinction event per se. It was a huge event though worldwide. I wanted to talk about Mount Tambora and its eruption. This happened, I believe, near Indonesia in 1815. Okay. It's the worst volcanic eruption in human history. There's been worse, but this is the worst that we've ever seen. On the volcanic eruption index, it reached a magnitude 7. For perspective, supervolcanoes, like the ones we've talked about, those have been 8s or above.
Oh my god. So it was close.
Yes. So just like all these other events, volcanic particles clouded the sky, caused volcanic winter. In 1816, they called it the year without summer. And it was the coldest year in Europe in the last 250 years. And I just want to throw in how much this affected like human history itself, hundreds of miles away. There's some stuff with I believe it's like the Napoleonic Wars or something like that. It affected. Yeah. This could be a whole episode, honestly.
Yeah.
But as an American, I wanted to say in the U.S., westward expansion exploded because things weren't very habitable on the East Coast anymore. So this is why Indiana and Illinois, states like those, were founded because of this event. And of course, the sudden migration messed up relations with the natives and territorial relations. So this kind of led into the Civil War almost. Jeez. If you think about it. And then just another fun fact: Vermont, they saw mass migration. Lots of people went to New York for more opportunities. One of these people was a Mr. Joseph Smith, who discovered his famous golden tablets in New York and founded the Mormon religion.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yes, Mormonism was caused by Mount Tambora.
Yeah,
and
chain
reaction. One more thing caused by Mount Tambora was the invention of the bicycle. You see, price of oats skyrocketed because it was because of famine and it was hard to grow anything at this time. So raising horses was more expensive. So somebody had invented the proto bicycle, if you will.
And that's
this year.
It's probably the is it the big wheel?
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. It led to basically mass migration. I'm sure these cities saw population increases, and it's probably what we see today from it.
Yep. And that was 1815.
Which is not that long ago in the grand scheme.
Yeah. 200 years.
Jeez, that's a crazy one. The next one that I wanted to touch on was, I'm sure everybody knows about this one too, but the Yellowstone supervolcano, also known as the caldera, and Jacob and I actually visited this a couple summers ago. We were there. This one's crazy. Basically, it's a huge caldera, basically an underground volcano that is in northwestern Wyoming on the national park of Yellowstone, and scientists have been monitoring it since 1923. And it's provided 3 colossal eruptions in the past 2.1 million years, which, if you looked at that on its face, isn't that long ago, or seems like a long time ago, but given this timeline, 2.1 million years is pretty short. But there's been one that occurs about every 600,000 to 800,000 years, in a massive explosion. So each eruption that happened, it produced large amounts of ash, gas, magma that went as far as Louisiana. After it exploded and it was done, it then collapsed on itself, sucking in trees and mountains in the air. So basically, it's 1,000. Each eruption is rated to be 1,000 times worse than the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption, which killed 56 people and thousands of animals. Which that's another one we could do an episode on.
Yeah, that was pretty recent, right?
Yeah, 1980. Pretty not that long ago, but that one is crazy. But this one was 1,000 times worse, these explosions. And it said that after the most recent Yellowstone eruption, 1/3 of the continent, of the North American continent, was in darkness. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory says that the most likely activity in the future won't be an explosion, but it'll be hydrothermal explosions or lava flows, but not an eruption. So basically you'll see is lava flows. Yeah, small lava flows. So Jacob and I had a small chance of being killed while we were there, but we nevertheless knew that the danger was present.
Indeed.
That one's crazy, though. There's been several books written about this theory of if this volcano does erupt to the scale that it has in the past, it's going to cause a widespread, sense of extinction.
Yeah, as a super volcano, it would probably be like one of those from the Extinction events, right?
Yeah, basically it's a similar size. It's a large piece of northwestern Wyoming. If you look it up, just look up Yellowstone caldera. Everybody that's listening, it'll show you the size of it. It's all underground, but when it goes off like it did, I mean, it sucks in trees and mountains. Like I said, it changes the landscape around it. It's just pretty crazy. But
Damn.
that's pretty much the other one that I had is if that thing goes off, you're going to feel it for sure. It's just how much ash would it produce, how much magma, stuff like that. But it's pretty crazy to think that there's stuff like that both on our continent, on other continents, and then these also exist in the ocean.
Yeah. And if we ended up nuking ourselves, couldn't a lot of these volcanoes prematurely erupt?
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's a triggering effect. What if an adversary thought if we hit the Yellowstone caldera right in the middle, it would cause it to go off, and then we would be so consumed by that, it's basically an attack in and of itself dealing with that.
Yeah.
But that stuff's interesting because basically they monitor it, and I guess occasionally the land will rise a little bit as the magma flows. They monitor it at Yellowstone, and they were a little concerned because the land increased a little bit over a few years, but then it went back down. So they're constantly looking at it, just waiting to see what it's going to do.
How long ago was the last eruption?
The last eruption was I don't even know if they have an exact date, but it was there's a gap in between each one of about 800,000 years. So I think a few 100,000 years ago.
So we're probably due for this pretty soon then.
Yeah, we're due for something here in the future, but they think it's going to be more relaxed than the past 3. But that doesn't really make me feel comfortable because if the last 3 were crazy, why would this next one be calmer?
Yeah. And you know what else kind of freaks me out? The Permian and Triassic period. There's 52 million years between those. And it's been 66 million years since our last event. So we could be, reaching that point. Like, it's about time. But it could also be about 150 million years out as well, based on the other happenings.
And human history, it's such a small blip in that. But then, too, I mean, I can't even remember what the timeline is for when the sun expands and it's going to consume the Earth.
Yeah, that's the end all be all.
Yeah, that the end of time. That's the final extinction event. This is crazy.
I guess if we want to go the Holocene route, like human beings as a force of nature, this is kind of similar, to these extinction events and how they took millions of years to develop. We could just be the extinction event itself,
We don't know that we're in it because these take millions of years.
Yeah.
To show. That's another thing, is a lot of people think that we're in it right now and that this extinction event that we're currently in could have multiple forms. It could be the climate change, with all the greenhouse gases. It could end up being a nuclear war where we just trigger it, like you said, and we wipe each other out. Some people think it could be biological, like COVID, something like that that affects the Earth, or artificial intelligence, a little throwback to our last episode, but some people think that AI could eventually lead to our current extinction.
Damn.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. You know what got me thinking? I guess throughout this whole episode, all of these events kind of led to the Earth itself evolving in a way. Because imagine, like, the two landmasses in Pangea, how you kind of maximize all these deaths because you're all concentrated in one or two spots. But the Earth, I guess, has evolved in such a way that if there's an explosion on one end, it won't necessarily affect the other side of the Earth.
That's true. That's a good way to put it. Because, maybe at the time they thought that those, ash clouds covered the entire Earth, but we were all one continent. It just had to cover a portion of it. But now we're all spread out. It could be harder to take everybody out. But you're right. And the species themselves adapted. I mean, this first extinction event, it was small marine life, bacteria. Yeah. Now we've gone through the dinosaurs, we've gone through reptiles, all that, and now we're here. So what's the challenge? What's the next extinction for this level of evolution?
Yeah,
which
or
is
what's gonna
could it be our
survive?
Own? Yeah, it's crazy.
Where was it? One of these events, we mentioned oxygen levels got low, so animals, it was hard to breathe. This is around when, like, mammals started developing diaphragms. Like, it changed everything about us in our evolution.
Yeah. They had to adapt to breathe.
A part of me is kind of wondering if we don't wipe out everything first, then life is going to evolve to destroy humans. Because, we are the problem.
What if it decided to heat up? What if the Earth just decided to get a little bit warmer or colder?
Yeah.
And that's a theory. I mean, or a virus. Could there be a virus that just takes out most life? Unless that, the ones in the ocean survive. It's when I was going through this all, it's insane how everything eventually came back to life, though. Something evolved. Something took over.
So do you think if humans died out, the next animals, do you think they'll be intelligent like us someday? Or are they going to go back to how things had been in, like, the Triassic period?
That's interesting. I feel like there's like a reset after each of these. Like, life has to restart. So I think it would be intelligent in the fact that it would know what it was doing, but not on the same scale as us.
That's fair.
I think it'd have to slowly be a rebuild. But it's kind of crazy because what if we reach a point where we get to enter, if we get to space travel and we leave this planet into another solar system, but then an extinction event happens here. I mean, imagine if something took out the life here, but then another set of humans came back afterwards.
Oh, yeah. That would be insane, man.
It's like a movie plot.
Yeah.
And maybe they decided to find survivors or something, and then those people evolved differently. Like, I don't know. That could be a whole thing.
Yeah. That does remind me, though. I didn't take notes on this, but the last ice age, it killed off almost all human species. That's around when Homo sapiens kind of rose to the top.
Oh,
and
interesting. Yep.
And yeah, there were just a few thousand humans alive during all of that. So, if there is an extinction event coming up, I do have faith in humanity. We've been through a lot of shit. And as seen with the Ice Age, and we didn't even know we didn't have guns back then. Like, our greatest feat was killing mammoths. So I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, I think the moral of this story is that nature does a lot of crazy stuff, but everything bounced back and everything was able to survive. But it's just crazy going back and thinking, just that one extinction event that you said, where the earth opened up and things were falling in. If that happened here right now, there's not much we could do about it.
True. Yeah, you did mention you wanted to talk about the San Andreas Fault.
Yeah.
Did you?
That's one where it's basically going to be. I didn't do too much research on this, but when that does go, it's going to be a large-scale earthquake. And I think that there's theories that the fault could open up, and anything that's on the fault, which I believe LA is not too close, if not on it, will basically fall into it. But then it's going to cause worldwide, aftershocks or shock waves. But it depends how strong that one is. But that's one where you could get to where the earth opens up. I mean, it's right where tectonic plates meet. If you got a whole city on that, a lot of that stuff's going to go.
Yeah. I heard it's like at the very edge of California. And if that... what's the word? If an earthquake happens there, it'll pretty much just split off, right?
Yeah. It'll split off, but then, like you said on those other extinctions, what about the tsunamis and stuff that are born from that? Any coastal city, Japan, anything like that, they're going to get hit hard, depending on how strong that earthquake is.
True.
So I think that's another crazy one that could go in with, like, the yellow... Or what if the Yellowstone volcano erupted, and then that causes San Andreas fault line to get triggered? Or vice versa, what if there's an earthquake that triggers the volcano?
True.
And that's what happened at a lot of these. I think when we were doing our research, it wasn't just one thing that happened. One thing caused a lot of other stuff to happen.
Yeah, like, for example, the Triassic one, 50 years of eruptions. Like, that could happen if we end up nuking ourselves, or if Yellowstone goes off, could set off everything else.
There's a chain reaction involved with this. And, I can't imagine living in a world where there's volcanoes going off for 50 years straight. That would just change the entire way that we would have to live.
Yeah.
With just the ash and everything. But did you find any other potential world enders, or is that enough scaring for today?
Yeah, enough fear-mongering.
Enough fear-mongering.
Yeah, that's as far as I went. We could just keep conjecturing about humans and the future. So many routes this could go. I mentioned yesterday an AI. If they studied all of this stuff that we've been through, these past 5 events, their conclusion would just be let's burn the world.
Yeah,
let's make it happen. Let's make a weather machine.
Yeah, they just gotta affect nature. We react to how the climate is, how the weather patterns are. It's like what you're seeing with these hurricanes and stuff that are stronger than normal. You got to now build hurricane-proof cities.
Yeah.
So I think if AI did it, they would just need to look at these past 5 events, and they can get some good ideas.
I think the cool thing about these events is they're all kind of different in some way. Like the first one, it was a supernova. The second was just what was that?
The second one was just...
Oh yeah, it was like volcanic plume and algae.
Yes, algae.
So many different things.
Yep, acid the third rain. One was a lot of volcanoes with acid rain. And the acid rain, I mean, that's just dirt in the eye. That's like the final nail in the coffin when that shows up. I don't know how we would adapt to acid rain.
That is true. Yeah.
We would need to rebuild everything to be acid proof.
We got to see how the Chinese do it.
Yeah, I mean, it would affect everything. So, no, I think that this episode was one of the craziest ones as far as the research, because when you dive into this stuff, it's stuff that could easily happen again.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways we could do other episodes, like the Mount Tambor. That's a whole episode in and of itself, that whole event.
Yeah, I left out a lot of things. Like, that winter was super, what's significant, I guess.
And you sent a video earlier, basically, that led to a lot of people adapting, and there was basically a content house of poets that wrote it out together.
Yeah, a bunch of poets stayed inside together in one house, and they had a contest to write the most depressing thing possible.
It's just crazy. There's a lot of ways we could go with this. I think if everybody that's listening enjoyed this episode, let us know if you want us to expand on one of these, because we could easily make another 1 or 2 episodes on just one of these periods or one of these events, for sure.
For real. We could talk about what life was like in more detail during this time. And
on the ground footage.
Yeah. Or how exactly they prevailed afterward, what kind of adaptations they developed.
Yeah, and hats off to the scientists. I had no idea that we could go back this far to get hard data on stuff that happened 440 million years ago.
I think it's crazy how they had names for the animals that survived.
Yeah, it's like, too.
Did they... Are there fossils of these creatures, or did they kind of just hypothesize that this is what would have had to survive at this time?
That's what I'm wondering about that giant fish, the Dunkleosteus, or however it's said. I don't know how they found out about that, but there's a full diagram about it. I don't know if there has to be. I'm sure on the seabed, stuff got preserved in the mud and stuff.
What if they found just like a giant head and just assumed it would have a giant body?
Well, and that's how, there's a lot of ways we could go with this, because like the Megalodon is known to exist. How did that really get wiped out when, obviously I think the food chain collapsed, but exploring that, how did that go away?
Yeah. That had to be because of no food. Nothing can be that big as a predator and survive that long.
Yeah, just a lack of food.
Things.
Lack of willpower. No, this episode was crazy. I think I hope we didn't scare everybody too much, because the chances of this happening in your life are very, very slim.
Yeah, maybe. Human history's been going by pretty fast.
That's true. Well, is there any final notes? Any final thoughts?
Protect the plankton.
Plankton carry this society on its back. They're the ones that'll bring us back.
If the plankton go, we're done for. They're the basis of the food chain, guys.
They're the first code. Oh wow, that's true. Protect the plankton. Get that going. Get that as a campaign.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Literally. Well, everybody, we can't thank you enough. Second episode back, and I think it was a good one. And I think now we'll send it to the outro. But thank you for listening. Check us out. Subscribe, like, comment. Let us know how this one was, and we'll catch you on the next one.